Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. Let's get started with our hosts, Linda McKissick and Dana Gentry.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. I'm Linda McKissick.
And I'm Dana Gentry.
Good morning, Dana. How are you?
Good morning. I am good. I'm excited for us to do our topic today. This was one you had talked about two episodes ago wanting to do. So
yes.
I'm excited.
Well, it's just kind of been a theme in my life lately on deciding how do you decide what things you attempt on your own and what things do you actually seek help on? So I'll start off. I'll give you an example. And I didn't realize this until some things kind of happen in my life, but it tends to be that I pick things that I feel like will challenge me and that I need to learn as things I attempt on my own. Now, maybe not 100% on my own. So here's a good example. A few weeks ago, I got disgusted with how much I couldn't find clothes in my closet and the confusion it was causing my brain to go in and try to figure out what to wear and all that stuff. So I have really made it an attempt that if something really annoys me, that I don't just keep letting it annoy me, because I can do that. I have a super high tolerance for pain and annoyance and all that stuff. And so rather than let it annoy me forever, I make a mental note and say, okay, I'm going to immediately get in control of this and start solving it. So that's been a big annoyance to me. Trying to pick out, I spend a ton of money on clothes. You know, I sent you that quote yesterday that says work harder so you can shop more. That literally is one of my mantras because I love clothes. I grew up with no clothes. I always like to say I grew up getting clothes from the Salvation Army and the cooks in the lunchroom. And now my goal is to give as much back to Salvation Army as I possibly can. Mm-hmm. But it is kind of frustrating to go in there and not know what to put together or what to wear when you've spent that much money on clothes. And then also to really not know what looks good on you and what you should wear and all of those things. And I thought, Linda, you have some really nice stuff, but Lord knows you don't know where it is and you don't know how to put it together with something else. So I set out to redo my closet because my closet's not super big, but it's also not tiny, And so I said, okay, I'm just going to redo this. And what I wanted to do was redo it in a way that all my outfits hung together from top to bottom, straight from the top all the way to the bottom. I got on YouTube. Nobody's done it. Not a single person. So I thought, well, maybe this is not that great of an idea. But I said, no, I think it is for me. So I thought, well, I'll find somebody to do it. So I called a company out. They sent this most amazing girl. Matter of fact, I have sent her our hold book. I've told her and her husband need to invest in real estate. Wow. I have made me a new friend because this girl is so talented. She works so hard. And I know that if she put some of her off-time energy to investing in real estate, she would build wealth because she gets design, she gets construction, she's got hustle. She's just amazing. I mean, I just fell in love with her. So she comes out, I explain to her what I'm trying to do. She draws up the most beautiful design, gives it to me. But the bid was like 40. I mean, by the time I got through doing everything I'd want to do, it'd be 40 grand. I'm like, I am not going to do that. I'm just not going to do that. I can't do that. So I still have a little bit of a logical side. So I just told her, I said, look, I can't do it. So totally understand. And I said, I have too many people in my life that surely I can do this on my own. I mean, when we buy rent houses, pretty much Jimmy, I know kind of what he does, but I've never actually physically oversaw the job, right? And I've thought several times, one, I should do it because I love teaching what I know. And if I'm going to teach it, I need to know it better, right? I can kind of talk about it, but I, there's more, I need to know more about how to do it all. So second of all, I thought, if anything, for any reason, he was busy on the Branson project and I needed to oversee one here, I need to know this stuff. So that was going around in my mind, but I was scared to do it all by myself. So I purchased some of the items from her company. And so she's kind of helped, guide me with that because of that. But I just decided I was going to take it on my own because if I can learn from it, and I realized in certain areas of my life, if my brain doesn't think that way, like on how to put the clothes together, my brain doesn't really think like that. So I go get help from Megan or you or somebody, or my friend Karen, somebody that seems to know style better than me. But I'm thinking construction, I grew up in construction, and I'm somewhat interested in it. And I wish I had paid more attention when I was on the job site with my brothers. Like, you know, I know what a 2x4 is and a 2x6. I know the difference between all that stuff. And I know what a nail is and a, you know, nail gun and all that stuff. I can go get the tools because that was my job, and I could pull the nails because that was my job. But I don't, you know, I needed to see, how do you put the whole thing together? Mm-hmm. So, and I thought it's a good chance to learn. So if it's a good chance to learn for me, then I'm going to pick that. I'm going to take it on and do it. If it's going to stretch me and I'm going to learn something that's going to be beneficial or that I need in the world of topics that I like to teach other people, then I'm going to do it. So I decided to take it on. So I learned a lot. You know, one topic I want us to do some point is the benefit of learning how to ask, because I think one of my greatest gifts is over the years, for some reason, I've learned to be willing to ask. And I've gotten so many great things from being willing to ask. And so if I don't know someone or something, I always ask other people, who do you know? You know, it's kind of like John Maxwell's, who do you know that I should know? Yep. So I asked the girl at my boutique, I said, hey, I want to redo my closet. Who do you know? And she gave me the name of a girl. So the girl said, oh yeah, come over. My closet's getting redone right now. Come over and look at it. So I went over and looked at her closet. And when I went there, she said, oh, I'll give you the name of my cabinet guy. So I had kept that. You know, she said, he's real reasonable. You're going to love him. So the other reason I didn't want to go with the company that had come out and given me the bid is, I don't know what their style is called. I don't know if it's like that California style. Our house is more custom, like there's more trim and molding and stuff like that. And I didn't want that to go away in my closet. And what they were going to do, I don't think modular is the word, but something like that.
Probably, and it was really modern, like real modern.
It was going to cheapen to me the room that I think is so warm and cozy to be a closet, so custom. So that was another reason why I decided, I don't want to do that. So I just set out and said, okay, I'm going to use this design and I'm going to figure out who can do this. And so I've called the cabinet guy. I was lost for a little bit. I did have to call her and say, help me here. And I bought footings for the shoe thing, and I bought the electronic things and stuff like that down from her, and I paid for them to come do the installation of that. So that's good. But I think it really has to do with, do you need to learn it? Mm-hmm. Would you learn better if you did it? And so where I got into trouble is my lack of detail. Mm. Like I have a cool little bench in my closet now, but I wanted it to be high enough for my tall boots to go under, and it's not. Mm. Just by a hair. And I didn't have enough, I felt bad because I didn't tell him. I didn't want to make him redo it. So there's a few places I'm going to have to get a little better. Like Jimmy would just said, that's got to go out. We got to get that taller. I couldn't do that. So I'm going to have to learn to get a little harder shell on some of that stuff. Yeah. And just know that's part of it. The other thing I didn't do super well is I didn't negotiate prices with anybody. But I think it's different if you have a contractor that you work with all the time and you know what your budget is. Because I hear Jimmy say all the time, look, David, we need to do that. We need to do it all within this price range.
Yeah.
And that's just, they make it work. And, I think because you give them enough volume, they can kind of do some of those things. It really is, especially on rent houses and things like that. It's really about watching every dime on those properties. Because if you start overspending, then there goes your profits. So it was a little different with my closet. I was already getting a better deal than I would have gotten the other way. So I didn't do any of that. But so I learned that those are the places. And also the measurements kind of messed me up a little bit.
Yeah.
Like for these electronic rods, she would send me these diagrams, and I'm like, I got to learn to read diagrams. I don't know what all that means. And for this many inches, and the box can only be so many inches. It can't be less than this or more than that. And so that's kind of that was the harder spot. But I'd like to do another project because I think I learned enough that the next one will be easier. Yeah. And then the next one after that will be even easier. So I may get Jimmy next house we do here work with me, but let me kind of do the whole construction thing.
Well, okay. So, cause that was actually, I had several questions, and then I knew that I've thought of a million examples of this too. But, so did Jimmy let you just do it, or was Jimmy?
Yeah. And he kind of made me mad a couple times because I would try to ask him something and it's like, I don't know, this is your deal, you know, and he didn't do it like, this is your deal, I don't know what, but he just like, well, I don't know, because he just stayed completely out of it. So I think he was kind of impressed a little bit.
I bet he was proud.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was a little shocked. But no, he didn't get involved at all, you know.
Well, I was thinking, so.
And I would sometimes want him to do the hard conversation that would need to be done, and he wouldn't do it. He'd make me make the call or find out, or, you know, like, will you find out from that painter how much? No, you know, you go do it. So that was good, though. I needed that.
I was going to say, which is probably good for you. So it was when we said, so the original question was, how do you decide to attempt things on your own versus getting help? And it was funny because you said that if it was going to give you a challenge, where my answer would be, I usually attempt it on my own if I feel like I know how to do it and I'm passionate about it. And if not, then not. So that's kind of funny, because you just made me think, I probably, not that I don't love a challenge, I do, but I also think it's the time. Like, I have to think about, I've got to really pay attention to my time at this point in my life. And if I don't know it and it would take me a long time to learn it, then right now I feel like, because we've talked about this before, where you're in different times where you're supercharging your life versus where you come and go. But when I did the flip, one of the last flip houses I did in Lexington, I did the whole thing myself, like GC'd it myself. Yeah. And I probably didn't have the time, but I made it work. And it was the difference in probably saving, I would say $30,000 to $40,000 on a contractor's fee versus me just doing it myself. And I think I totally agree, when you do things yourself, you learn stuff every single time. And I can just think of so many things that I learned from doing that last one, because it was an older house and I'd never really done a much older house. I'd always done kind of newer stuff, new construction or new builds. But yeah, it's funny. And then I think too, I tend to lean towards stuff that I'm really passionate about and then I want to do that stuff myself versus have somebody else do it.
Well, so here's another example of something that I don't learn as easily, or I'm not as passionate about. That's why yesterday I took a lot of my clothes into Megan, my little girl that has a real cute little dress boutique here. And I said, please help me put these outfits together. I don't, you know, and I've watched some YouTube videos just to get a little more knowledge. Like she's just brilliant in certain, like what shoes you wear. And I mean, this just stuff just wears me out. Yeah. So I don't really want to learn that. I'd rather go ask for her professional opinion. And you know, I don't want to go build the cabinets that were in my closet. I want to subcontract the cabinet. So there's a limit, even a detail. And I watch a lot of people that are unwilling to hire people to do certain things that their time would be better spent doing something else. Right. So there's a difference in, you know, because you brought up a good point, the time value of your time. And I've watched people that are so frugal, they absolutely cannot subcontract anything. And on the other hand, our motto is no job too small to subcontract. Right. So I think that's the difference too, is I got to have a purpose to learn it, to spend my time doing it. If there's not a purpose and I can't justify the time, then I'm not going to do it. You know, I'd rather just get somebody else. Well, here's a perfect example. I just said to Megan, Megan, as soon as my closet gets finished, can you come over on a weekend? And I'm going to pay her to do it because this is what she does. And will you just help me put together some cool outfits that I absolutely love, every single one in that form, that where everything, you know, every cubby in the closet. I've got that video. We'll put it on YouTube or somewhere, but
yes, we'll share it.
Yeah, it's kind of big. I don't even know how to share. Well, that's why I texted you yesterday. How do you share it? Because one of my boutique ladies wanted to see it because she thinks that's a great idea. But from top is your electronic pull down. Middle is where you hang your pants, or like, let's say it was athletic, it'd be leggings and running shorts or whatever. And then there's a big drawer. And then underneath that is 2 pull out things with footings for your shoes. So athletic shoes would go in that whole row of cubbies, right? So each box has a section. Another section might be only clothes I wear to go out or have fun. And so everything would be there, from jackets to tops to everything. And the drawer would be, depending on what section it's for, it could, like if it's my athletic stuff, it'd be sports bras and tops.
Mm-hmm.
So I love it. Each one has a big drawer. Each one has 2 deals for shoes underneath, 2 pull out things that kind of, have you ever seen those things that they kind of snap back? Like, I don't know what that's called, easy shut or something like that. He did that on the pull outs. So just trying to make my life simpler. I
was just getting ready to say, Linda, your life you are going to love that. You've talked about this for years.
Yes, for years. See, and I'm learning though to pay attention to what annoys me. Yep. And if it annoys me, I don't put it off. I need to get better at saying, okay, who would this not annoy? Who would absolutely love doing this? And that's when I pull in someone else. So if it had annoyed me to go figure out who to get and how to get it, then I wouldn't have done that. But because I actually like construction, I like anything to do that you could use for real estate. I like anything I could teach someone else. Wow. I liked going and getting the contractors. Plus, it's going to be beneficial at some point for me to, just go do one of our rent houses from start to finish if Jimmy's busy doing something else.
Yeah. I was just thinking of 2 other really great examples. One of them you're going to laugh at, but one that people really struggle is social media. I mean, people are either on it or they don't really care. They don't really know anything about it, or it overwhelms them. And so a lot of times I think a lot of people miss a ton of business because they won't leverage it out, or they won't learn it, like one or the other. So they do nothing.
Oh, that is such a great point, because just like you saying, hey, I think people would enjoy looking at your closet redo, which my brain doesn't think like that at all. And having Caitlin help me with marketing is good, because we put up a shared folder. She reminds me to get some pictures of that. And I need that reminder because my brain doesn't work like that. I don't think about always taking pictures. Yep. And it's so funny because I like seeing it with other people, but I somehow just decided that other people wouldn't like seeing what's going on in my life. You know what I mean? But then I'm thinking, but I like that about other people. I love it when people share ideas and tips, and I'm a junkie for that stuff. And I'm like, well, what makes you think other people aren't like that too? Right. I mean, if someone well, first of all, it is important to me because I made Monica Reynolds one time, bugged her to death to let me see her closet. She has the coolest closet you've ever seen in your life, or she did in California. And I'm like, Monica, I got to come see this closet. I mean, it's been 2 years ago. That's how long I've thought about redoing this closet.
I remember you telling me that she had an amazing closet. I actually remember that.
Oh, maybe if she doesn't mind, I'll show pictures of it on something if I get her okay to do it, because I took some good pictures of it. It's like a room. It's not a closet. It's a room.
Oh,
it's so cool. It was so cool. So
like
so that made me realize, well, God, if I like seeing those kind of things, somebody else out there will get one idea or something that could improve their life or make their life more efficient.
And I could be totally wrong, but I think during the pandemic, honestly, this year, I feel like it's even more, like people even more want to see what everybody else is doing, because a lot of us have lost that personal contact and personal connection, and we're not going over and hanging out at our friends' houses all the time like we used to. And like, we're not, you know what I mean? So I feel like people want to look into people's lives even more than what they did before, I guess would be I don't know. It's crazy. And then it just reminded me, so the last 2 and 3 days, half days, I spent doing one-on-ones with the top 10% of some of my agents. And Linda, you'll love this. This was really interesting. Every single one of them, I don't know how many I did this week. I have to break them up for time purposes, but I think maybe 16 or something this week. Every single one of them, this is the best year they've ever had in real estate. The best year they've ever had. Like, their business was up. This is the best year they've ever had. There wasn't one of them that I did that wasn't. And, but what I was going to say was, yesterday I was talking to one, and he's an individual agent, Chris. And it was interesting because he's going to close this year out at 81 units by himself for right at 13 million. And he doesn't have an admin. And so that was what we talked about. And he said, I don't know if I want to spend the money, and I like to do this stuff myself. And I'm like, Chris, at some point you have to realize you are not going to be able to do more until you really decide that you have to have help. You've got to get help.
This one thing I said to press this past week, I said, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should.
Right.
Because the truth is, I have advantage in that area. There's so many things I cannot do that has forced me, even from the very beginning days of my real estate, to have an assistant very quickly.
Yeah.
Because I am just a mess when it comes to anything detailed or organizational, but you get people that are good at it and they will tend to do it to save the money. Maybe it's their frugality, or maybe it's their, I can do this. And they don't realize that they're walking over dollars to get to dimes when they do those kind of things.
Yep. Yep. Actually, I think I might have said that to him, because that's one of the things I've learned from you and Jimmy is that saying. And yeah, but I thought, but that kind of goes with our question today, because a lot of agents do that in their business. I mean,
Yes.
they try to do it all on their own instead of actually reaching out and getting help. And I mean, he's had an amazing year, and there were several others too. But you know what was interesting? The one of my agents, Ross, who actually did make a hire right before the pandemic started, his business is up 246% since he hired her. He went
Oh,
from
that's a great story to share with everybody.
yeah, he went from 4.3 million to 11.4 million this year, from like 20 something units to 73 units this year. Up 246% in volume. I have all this laying on my desk because I just finished it Friday, and then up 196% in units. And the single reason was because he made the hire of his first admin, and she has quadrupled his business since.
Yeah.
I mean, they got together.
If that isn't proof right there for anybody who's listening who isn't wanting to let go of the money or the task,
Yep.
that you are absolutely saying no to something way more valuable when you say yes to doing it yourself.
Yeah. And you know what else he said? It was funny. I said, what is your biggest need going into 2021 for your business? And his answer was admin number 2.
Yeah. Awesome.
And I'm like, Ross, oh my gosh, a year ago, you were like, I can't hire anybody. I'll just do it myself. And he's like, I know, because it's once you get a taste of that leverage in your business growth. I mean, I was just so proud of him. I'm like, man, you were like my most proud call, because he really got it, and he's chosen to get help, and it's paid off massively for his business.
You know, and there's such great joy, I think, and I'm getting this more and more over the years as I've learned the importance and the value of having people around you that have a unique ability that's different than your unique ability. And I just get such joy. And when I get somebody who you can tell the fit just clicks, because they start doing the role and they've got energy, and all of a sudden you get this breath of energy because your load gets lighter.
Yeah.
And you're not the one having to take ideas to them. They're taking ideas to you, or you start saying, well, what about this? And they go, already done. And, you know, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so great. This is like the best thing ever. So it may take people a while to get to that. If you're not used to succeeding through other people, it could actually even be like frustrating.
Yeah.
You know? And so what you got to ask yourself is the frustration that I'm not letting go and letting them do the piece that is their unique ability that would make my life easier, or do I have the wrong person, right? Because that'll also suck your energy.
Well, you know, that's so true, because I also did, I did a couple other calls with agents, and, you know, the ones that were highly just frustrated and felt like they could not do anything else, and that they weren't spending time with their family. And one of them, she even said to me, I just feel like I'm just shutting down on everything. And it's because she hasn't made the decision to get leverage. And I'm like, you're going to feel that way. And it sucks, because I hate that. You hate somebody feeling that way. But until they self-discover that that's what they have to do, I mean, you know, it's just part of it. I don't know. So I'm like, you need to talk to Ross, because look at his business this year after it. And he felt like you before.
So I think that leaves us with kind of a couple of things that people could think about to decide whether you want to do it. Number one, could what you learn really help you in everything else that you do?
Yep.
Right. So here would be a good example of that with a new agent in the example we just talked about. If it's a new agent, I think learning how to do a transaction from beginning to close is important, right? But that doesn't mean you got to do it forever, just long enough to get an idea so that you know how to help the people that are coming in to do it, or know if they're doing a good job or not doing a good job. So one, will you learn it? Can you use that knowledge any other place in your life? Like for me, you know, I can use it to help other agents when they're wanting to build investment properties out and do things like that. Yep. One other question is dollar productive wise, is it costing you way more dollars for that time? Mm-hmm. And you're not learning anything, then I would say absolutely not.
Well, you know, that's what I just wrote down is everybody needs to know what they're worth per hour.
Mm-hmm.
And
absolutely.
You know,
and not even what it is per hour right now. What do you want it to be?
You want it to be, yeah.
Because to me, what I want it to be should have even more power than what it is right now, right? Because we're all always trying to reach higher goals.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the things that bless his heart, Chris and I talked about on one of my agents. He said, I know my dollar per hour worth right now. I did that exercise 2 weeks ago. It's $187.50 per hour. And I said, okay, if that's what your worth per hour is, then, and you're making these social media posts every night until 11 p.m. that, that could be a $15 an hour job. I'm like, you've got, so when, and he said, I never really thought about it like that. I'm like, you have to think about what your time is worth now, and then what you could get help on.
Mm-hmm. Well, and a great exercise is to write down for a couple of weeks. I've done this with my team members and stuff before. Write down every 2 weeks, every 15 minutes what you do, and let's go back and put $1 per hour by it.
Yep.
Or ask yourself, is it actually my main goal that I have? Is it actually moving me closer to that, or is it actually taking up space for something that could move me closer to that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great exercise. We've done that before.
Or if you think you don't have time for something, I also think there's a lot of times that there's gaps in between that you're not thinking about, that, it feels like, well, I don't have time for that. But I always believe everybody always has time for what they really value the most and what they want to have time for.
Definitely. Well, you make, what is that saying? You make time for what's important to you, and you make excuses for what's not, or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So any other things that you can think of if somebody was trying to make a decision on whether, should I do it myself? Should I have someone else do it? What other factors would you think of? What are you going to learn that you could use somewhere else?
Yeah, I would say just think of the end game too, and go back to the time. And a lot of people, I don't know, you and I both are money motivated as well, and so sometimes I think the money does come into play. But if you look long term, is that going to actually make you more or take away? Then that to me is definitely a big thing. But there's also a lot to the learning part of it, and I strongly believe that you learn when you do. And I just think I think that there's a lot to be said for that. I think that's like an invaluable. You can't put a dollar amount on learning something from doing it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And speaking of learning, one of the things I've tried to be conscious of is, and I've heard like Gary say this before, that a lot of books and stuff are going to say pretty much the same thing, right? So he reads very short into a book, and it either validates a deep belief that he already has, or it changes it. If it changes it, he keeps reading it. If it just says the same thing, he puts it down. And I think I've been guilty in the past of reading the same kind of books that are crap that I've already learned. I don't need to relearn that. And that's a waste of time for me.
That was one of my biggest ahas from Gary. You're right. He said it numerous times, but I heard him say it for the first time last year at some point. And he said, if I read a book and I've read the first 30 pages and I haven't learned something new, I don't continue reading it anymore. And I was like, golly, that's how you read so many books. I mean, that's a great lesson, really.
Yeah. And I think, a lot of times we tend to, especially if I like a subject, I'll tend to read the same books that may be different authors, but they'll kind of basically say the same thing instead of looking for something that might be. And, I think the older you get and the more books you've read, that's harder to find.
Yep, I agree.
Because, and I think going back and saying around certain topics, like I've heard Gary say before too, like on management, Drucker, I think, is the guy that he's just gone to. He's a go-to. And I've heard a lot of other very successful people. And so instead of looking for a new book that's a new book that's probably around something that I've already learned, I really need to go back and just dig deeper into that gentleman's work, right?
Peter Drucker, I think.
Peter Drucker, yes. And then the same thing for, I think that's who that was, isn't it?
Yeah, Peter Drucker is who Gary always says, like, is his go-to. He dives deep into his books. And then the, what's the other one? I'll think of it in just a second.
Well, and the other, like if I'm going to find out who should I read and study on marketing, I go and listen to what Joe Polish who he would say, right? He's got a few people that, man, and it hasn't changed in 20 years on who he believes is the guru of that. So I think, kind of thinking through that is a great way to make sure you're not, because we both love to learn and we spend a lot of time learning, but am I learning anything that's going to further me, or am I just learning for learning's sake?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great point. Yeah.
I'm talking to myself here.
Yeah,
Guilty.
same. That's a great point.
Awesome. Well, any last things you'd want to add, Dana, about if someone's trying to think through, how do you decide what you should, take on yourself and what you should get the help of someone else on?
I don't know that I have anything else other than I think this is a really great question. I think it started off, we were thinking, okay, you did your closet and how can we turn that into a lesson? And I mean, there's so many lessons to think about with this. And it's just such a really great question. And I think you have to just spend time meditating on it and really figuring out if you want to do something on your own versus get the help. And I think everybody's going to be at different points in their lives when they're going to need more help versus they're going to have more time to do. What do they say when you get into real estate? You have more time. And then as you grow your business, then you have more money and you don't have the time. So your decisions, your choices and your decisions change. I feel like this is kind of the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and there's different levels of doing it yourself. I didn't do the whole closet myself. I didn't make the cabinets and do all that, or the mirrors and any of that stuff.
Jimmy would have been really, really impressed if that would have.
Hey, Linda would have been impressed if I'd have done that. Well, because number one, I don't have a desire to learn that stuff.
No.
Now, Anna, on the other hand, she'd probably been trying to do all that. She'd been making her own marble and making her own cabinets and putting up her own mirror. I just don't have a desire for that at all, right? But I do have a desire to learn how to work through subcontractors, and I do have a desire to learn how to figure out about space and measurement. I love that Jimmy can walk into a house and he can look at it and say, okay, boy, here's exactly what we need to do. And I can help a little bit with that. I do have a little bit of an eye for that. But his is so natural, and I know it's because he's done it time after time.
I was just getting ready to say he's done it a blue million times. So
Yeah. So, all right, love it, and I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow at John Maxwell, and we'll do a great episode on everything we're learning with John, and share that with everybody.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. It's gonna be super exciting.
Awesome. Great. Well, remember, if you haven't hit the subscribe button, please hit down below and hit subscribe. And if the greatest compliment you could give Dana and I is to pass this on to a fellow realtor, a friend, a coworker, maybe even a client that you think would benefit from our topics. And last but not least, we'd love to hear your suggestions and ideas on topics that you'd love for Dana and I to cover, or even any great guests that you think would be phenomenal for us to reach out to. So thank you, Dana, and I will see you in less than 24 hours, I guess.
Sounds great. See you then.
Be sure to subscribe for more business strategies and tactics to inspire you to live an abundant real estate life. Don't forget to rate and review so we can bring you the best content. Find this and other valuable information at everythinglifeandrealestate.com.